Welcome to Cover Lover Comics, brought to you by FLAKtv. Find love and kindness. Today, we will be discussing pop culture and its impact on comic books, as well as comic books' impact on pop culture. Let's be honest here, folks. We have movies making $1 billion. Lots of money just raining in. Spider-Man is just raining it in. All these movies, the Avengers, raining it in. Even Venom, my goodness, raining it in. So folks, the connection here has been just connected forever. I mean, I hate to say it, but they are truly connected. We have toys, cartoons, movies, television shows, all affected by comic books, as well as comic books being affected by those mediums as well. See, in the early days, it really didn't work directly where the movie companies and the television companies were coming to the comic companies, saying, hey, we like what you have, and we want to make something on our programming channel to show to the people. It wasn't necessarily even to promote that company if it was the company coming to them doing that. If ABC approached Marvel, it may not even be to say they want to promote Spider-Man, they just needed an IP to put on their television channel. So in the early days, it was more like comic books using television programs to push their books. For example, I have this copy of The $6 Million Man. That's right, this is the first appearance of Steve Austin. No, not oh hell yeah, and a can full of whoop ass, but more like running full speed, Steve Austin. You know who that is, right? Classic guy, cybernetically enhanced. We can make him faster, stronger, quicker, generate more revenue. Yeah, so Charleston published this comic back in the day. It was a way for them to take Charleston comics and bring a little bit of notoriety to Charleston, utilizing a popular television program. This is sort of the format for a long time. Then you started seeing, sort of a branch off, and started seeing different things like role-playing games start impacting pop culture. I mean, Dungeons and Dragons was huge and also sort of controversial. I mean, it was connected to the metal movement and the goth movement and the rock movement and Satan worshiping and all these horrible things. However, it had nothing to do with that. It was imagination, right? Comics are pure imagination. And, kind of rolling on that, all pun intended, role-playing games had a huge impact. One of the huge impacts made in role-playing games was Shadowrun, which took kind of the world of the Blade Runner universe and expanded upon that, creating a genre kind of based on the Blade Runner films. Cyberpunk's what the genre is called. Essentially, this is regular folks like you and I that are living in extreme times in the far future. Maybe not so far future, because these were made in the 70s and the 80s. I believe this one was made in the early 90s. However, Cyberpunk universe is much like the upcoming video game that you'll see on PlayStation. It's going to be crazy, folks. You got people cybernetically enhanced to tap into machines, living in a world of mutants and aliens and all sorts of androids and cyborgs and gosh, man, it's insane. Bounty hunters, assassins. It's like Star Wars, Blade Runner, and some kind of techno Beyblade Digimon world universe mixed into one had a child. These comics are super rad because they way predate some of the huge popularity of cyberpunk in, larger pop culture genres. You had like some books and stuff, but not a lot of comics. Manga was already kind of ahead of the game when it came to cyberpunk, however. This is issue number 2 of the first run. This was a short run series. It only had 6 issues. Each little set is 2 issues. This is book 2, right here. These are sort of Matrix-y before the Matrix. They weren't necessarily saying that machines were taking us over or that we were going to be enslaved or anything like that. It was more just like the fight that people had to go through just to live in that society and make money and hustle. Pop culture, huge impact. Even in the UK, the cyberpunk genre picked up huge. And in the UK, you had books like, Judge Dredd and the 2000 AD series. And those series spanned over the seas and came to the Americas and grew larger and picked up. And you had companies like Eagle Comics sort of following up, taking side characters from those universes. This is Robo Hunter. It's about a fella named Sam Slade. He goes out and he hunts down rogue robots. Robots that can be used in service for humanity that have, gone rogue. They're either hurting people, going against their programming, or causing all sorts of issues. It's great. I mean, he gets paid big money, sort of like Boba Fett, but at the same time, he smokes an e-cigarette that's actually sentient, because it's a futuristic, sentient, cyborg, robotic e-vape, which is really trippy. It talks to him. It gives him adrenaline and things like that, and he just goes out hunting and fighting, trying to put up paper, making things happen. Pop culture in the 80s was big into making money, generating revenue, and characters that were fringy and almost willing to do whatever they could to make money were selling huge at that point. The cyberpunk genre crossing over into that sort of made it readily available to approach and appreciate a rogue-like scoundrel. I mean, hell, we were already into Han Solo as is. And this guy was very Han Solo in the way that he was going to go hunt his products down, his robots down, get his paper by any means necessary. Now, we're talking about the pop culture connection here. And as we do that, we start to talk about genres of films. In the 1980s, the big genre was, I guess you could say, borderline teenage adult comedy. You know, beer drinking, partying, sort of predicated on the sales of Animal House. Animal House sort of promoted the, yet again, the anti-hero, the anti-authority, the partiers, the rebels. And one of my favorite comics that I probably shouldn't have been reading at the age I was reading it was Ralph Schnarr's Adventures. Ralph Schnarr is freaking awesome. It was done by Mark Hansen back in 1986, and as it came forward, it went until 1993, published by Now Comics. The cool thing about this comic is that you're not sure if this guy's crazy and locked up in an asylum, or if he's in the asylum and dreaming about reality, and you're just confused. You know, is reality his life, or is the loony bin his life? And it's crazy. This character, you actually do come to find out that it is his real life, and that it's actually only in his mind that he has adventures of being locked in a loony bin. He eventually gets tracked down by this evil doctor that takes his brain and messes with it. And so that's what really gets kind of weird, because he starts speaking with devils and weird animals, and one of his best friends is Mr. Lizard. The cool thing about Ralph Schnarr is he gets into all sorts of shenanigans, predicated mostly upon his love for beer. He will do anything for a case of beer. Of course, he's also foul-mouthed, a chauvinist, a sexist, has about this big of a temper. I mean, you know, it takes about that much to get him super pissed off. Super fun comics. They were more for adults, like I said. This is issue 1 of the first run miniseries. I haven't found issue 1 of the second series, but this is the issue 1 of the third series, third volume. It went forward. We had Ralph Schnarr Adventures. This is a nice one here. This was a good little 3-issue set. You have to check these out, folks. They're almost to go find it. This right here is the Ralph Schnarr 3D. Has 12 little limited cards on the inside, as well as 3D glasses. Because let's be honest here, you want to watch a freak like this in 3D and read about his adventures in 3D. The connection, pop culture-wise, goes into movies. However, yet again, like I said, folks, TV companies weren't necessarily looking for comic book content. It was more like comic books looking to put out some more content from the televisions to promote their comics. Eventually, by the mid-'80s, it caught on and it started going both ways. It started kind of being a hand-in-hand sort of a thing. One of my favorite comics from the 80s that was adapted from a film was Willow, which is actually being adapted to the new Disney Plus channel. And what's cool is that Disney Plus is going to take this Ron Howard classic and move this thing forward. I think it's going to be set 20 years in the future. So if you actually pick these up, these are going to be the first appearances of Laura Dannon and Mad Mardigan and Willow Othgood, which is pretty freaking awesome. You can also make sure to find, if you look closely here, they got first prints and newsstands. Keep your eyes peeled. You can find these issues sometimes in dollar bins, floating around. Pretty simple to come by. You get a chance to, grab them. It's Willow. And we all know, Willow, you are great. Our last couple issues before we move on from the pop culture genre: Mars Attacks, Jurassic Park, and one of my favorites crossing back to Mars Attacks, Mars Attacks Baseball. Just absolute ridiculousness. The aliens playing baseball with human heads. Now with that, we're going to take a quick 7th inning stretch and a quick break here. Let's enjoy a huge sponsored benefit from our friends at FLAKtv. Go get them, Flak. Come on back. We'll see you soon. Hey there, cover lovers. Welcome back. I hope you took that brief moment after learning about pop culture, television, and movies and comic books to subscribe to FLAKtv so you can keep up with all the latest issues being, well, I guess you could say, published digitally for you guys to check out. So as we return, we're going to get into some of my favorite things. These are oversized comic books. Well, larger than a magazine even. They're about the size of a Life magazine. The cool thing about these comics is that they took old issues, reprinted them, which was cool because there was a tough problem getting back issues of comic books. There wasn't really a lot of comic shops in the early 70s. So finding some of the back issues from the 30s, 40s, and 50s was tough. So DC and Marvel decided to go ahead and put out these larger, oversized editions. Most of them were printed in the 1970s. My favorite thing about these is that most of the time when you find them, they are beat up because there was no bags and boards the size for these comics. Heck, regular bags and boards for regular comics were pretty tough to come by at that time as well. This is why older comic books in great condition are valuable, because most of them got damaged. These are mostly my reader copies that I've managed to collect over the years that I wanted to share with you, because they're just too cool not to. So as you see, this is from the early 1970s. This is the Villains, the Secret Origins of the Supervillains, brought to you by DC. One of the cool things about this comic is that this cover is actually on the back, but what's cool about it is this back cover is actually a cutout so you can make a small diorama of this cover. And what's really cool about that is that I'm sure people did that, and that destroys the value and destroys the quality of the book, but it also improves your quality of fun, which is what comic books are all about. So go ahead and cut those suckers up if you want. I myself, I don't think so. I think I'll keep it as is. When we go inside some of these comic books, what we're gonna find is unique standouts, like this Lex Luthor, for example. It's going to be something that's just unique to the inside of this book. These are some of the cool things you find in these oversized issues. We're going to go on to the sequel to this title, which is The Secret Origin of the Supervillains. More Secret Origins of the Supervillains, that is. Cool cover. You gotta love this cover. And yet again, they provided this cover as a nice diorama pop out. Pretty freaking sick. When you go inside of this comic, you'll find reprints of Superboy and all sorts of other cool classic DC heroes. But the cool thing about these two large oversized issues is that they collected the villains. These are some of the best villain stories you will find interacting with these heroes. So in a way, it was sort of the first best of the villains. Really, really cool. Go inside this sucker for a second. And as we look inside this issue, there is an oversized wanted poster showing you all these treacherous DC shady villains in all their wanted glory. This is a unique piece. I mean, I don't even know if DC reprinted this or if this is readily available, but I would wear this as a t-shirt or keep this as a screensaver any day of the freaking week. Yet again, folks, these covers are amazing, and the cool thing about them, it was some of the first times you can get original prints of original books. So the first issue of Detective Comics came out in the early 30s, but by issue in number 27, which is famous, Detective Comics number 27, we got the first appearance of the Batman. The Batman. I don't even have to tell you who the Batman is. It's the Batman. What more do you need to know? His first appearance was in Detective Comics number 27, back in I think 1939 actually, which is cool because these comics were a little larger when they came out anyways due to the fact that they're golden age. And finding these comics in the 70s and the 80s, even though the collector's market wasn't that huge, still super hard to come by. Like I said, these are beat up copies, so don't judge for this back cover. Just a super cool looking Batman right there. Great use of black and white to pop the silver. Going inside this thing, you'll find legendary stories, reprints of some of the original covers that are oversized, so you get a nice perspective of some of the original art that was being done by Bob Finger and some of the cool stuff by, or Bill Finger, my bad. Really great stuff. These also contain some of the original advertisements of the day, which is freaking awesome too. It keeps some of the, original feel of these comics. So this is actually an exact duplicate reprint of Detective Comics number 27. Inside of here, it's not just going to have Batman. It's going to have all of these unique stories that came out around that time. Batman was such a heavily printed character. They had to release, of course, Batman number 1. And this is an exact copy of Batman number 1, which is really, really cool. Inside you have unique posters, just like the rest of them. I had a fun time finding a lot of these, and there's a lot more than you think. They have Sensational Comics, Whiz Comics, all of the original heroes, including Action Comics and Adventure Comics. It's really, really sweet to find these when you can find them. Going inside yet again, because I'm just loving sharing these with you folks. I dig through these a lot, and I just enjoy the fact that when you go through them, you find unique inserts yet again. You just got to do a little digging. And as we go in here, I'm going to find one right now. So right here we're going to have a nice Meet the Artist. And this is from the time period. Like I said, this is a reprint of the actual Batman number 1. This is something you'd find inside Batman number 1. These were intriguing to me because not only were they a cool history lesson, but you got to really watch the evolution of some of what DC refers to as the Holy Trinity, or we do. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, the big 3 coming out of DC. Yet again, unique back cover. Looking super cool. Batman, obviously one of my favorites coming from DC. Although Swamp Thing, real close second. DC did not mess around with these. When they printed them out, they printed them on pretty solid paper, even for like a newspaper stock. You're gonna see inside here is a layout of Wayne Manor, the Wayne Foundation. I don't even know if this has been printed in a comic book or reprinted since. Super cool, hard to come by. Give you the overall screenshot, folks. Check it out. Yet again, super cool, super hard to come by. I'm having a blast sharing this with you. Show you another Batman right quick. We'll move on. Sweet cover. I believe maybe Neil Adams. Turns into a pop out as per usual. Most of these DC comics did have a pop out or a cutout. Something to entice you to, in a way, I guess, destroy the comic, which I don't think that was their intent. I think their intent was just to invoke fun with the characters. Cool thing about this is that this oversized book coming out here might be one of the first times that we saw a meeting between the big 2. That's right, Marvel and DC, the first crossover ever. Some people think it might have been Amalgam, which came out in the 90s, but it wasn't. There was a few things before that. But this one might have been the big one. This is Superman versus Spider-Man. I found this thing for $1. The cover falls off. But I don't care. I read the bejeepers out of this. It's super cool. You get Lex Luthor and Dr. Octopus teaming up against Superman and Spider-Man. It's just too sweet to talk about. What happens? You know I'm not going to tell you what happens. I'm just kidding you. I want you to find this thing and read it. It's Superman versus Spider-Man. It's a clash of the Titans. This thing is huge. It might have been the first crossover ever from Marvel and DC, and you want to check it out. I mean, back cover is still a cover to love. And this is Cover Lover Comics. You telling me you wouldn't wear that t-shirt, jacket, anything, on anything, right? Nice, sweet cover. Marvel really pushed the issue though. And I mean that. They pushed the issue. They said, what can we make in oversized that we can highlight? What can we put out? And this one right here is pretty beat up. This is a Marvel Treasury Edition, which is what they were calling some of their oversized 100-page collector specials. This has been reviewed on another channel. You can check it out, Cartoonist Kayfabe. I love those guys. But we're going to check it out because this is what we do. This is Conan the Barbarian. This is done by Barry Windsor Smith. If you're not familiar with Barry Windsor Smith, please take the time to go look up Barry Windsor Smith. He's done some of the most epic Wolverine X series. It was amazing. The Weapon X series. He's done Conan, obviously. He's done a lot of cool stuff for Valiant. Opening up this comic, if I can for you folks, as we go through, we're going to find unique style and class in his technique. Just love Barry Windsor Smith. Show you another giant size issue here, right? Really fun to share. This is the giant superhero team up. This is really cool. This collected different crossover issues where maybe Hulk was in Thor or Spider-Man was with the Submariner. And what's cool about this is it has a few unique inserts and posters as well. What's fun about these is, like I said, they have unique art even on the back covers. So as we look at this, we see this really cool looking, probably could be a Ramita. Not sure. I have to look on the back cover. However, where are you going to find this? I don't think I've ever seen this layout before. And it may have only been produced for this right here. One of the last couple issues we're going to go through from Marvel's large Treasury editions. This is Marvel Treasury Edition number 16. This is the Defenders. What's cool about this is that it's actually the original Defenders. Not Luke Cage and Daredevil and Jessica Jones, but you know, all due respect to them, but these are the real Defenders right here. You know, you got Valkyrie and all these folks joining up, real crew of badasses. Silver Surfer. Back cover's awesome. You got the Black Knight, who I'm not sure, but if you're reading Marvel right now with the upcoming King in Black, the Black Knight might have something to say about that. I'm not sure. Null might have a little something coming from that ebony sword. This right here is one of my favorite oversized editions, and the last one we'll be talking about right now. This is the Captain America Bicentennial Battle. It came out in 1976, commemorating the 200th anniversary of the United States of America. It's beautifully done by Jack Kirby. That is right, Jack the King Kirby. You open it up inside, you get the credits, you get to check this thing out. Get this beautiful inside cover right here. Folks, at the very bottom of this page, you can see some tiny writing there. That's called the index. If you ever want to know when a comic was printed, when it came out, where it was released from, the index will always tell you. Checking out this back cover with Uncle Sam and good old Steve Rogers. Happy 200th birthday, America. Absolutely. And folks, celebrating comic books is what we do. That's all I'm about. Loving comic books and sharing comic books. Matter of fact, if I wasn't sharing comic books, I'd be finding comic books the same way that Flak finds love and kindness and shares it with you. Cover Lover Comics enjoys sharing comics, and Flak enjoys finding love and kindness. So find love and kindness here at Cover Lover Comics. Enjoy every issue you can by subscribing, and we'll see you again soon in the funny books. Cover lovers, I hope you didn't tune out, because now's the time you got to be plugged in so you can learn about today's Go Find It. Go Find It! Oh, you know what a Go Find It is. A Go Find It is something that might have been printed in the millions. It may have only been printed in the thousands. It may be worth tons of bread, or it might not be worth crumbs. But I think it's kind of cool, kind of rare, hard to come by, and just want to share it with you. So today's Go Find It is going to be the Matrix free preview special. Now the trip with this issue is it came out in 1999, March, around the same time as the film. It's supposed to be given away as a free giveaway. However, it was recalled because apparently it was too violent. The comic book was too violent to be given away? Well, that's because they thought about it. And there might be some children underage being taken out to see this film. Even though I do believe The Matrix was an R-rated film, people still are going to take their kids to see it. I mean, how many moms bought their kids GTA when it came out? You're like, ma'am, and just kind of let it slide. That's what this comic book almost had happen, and some did end up out there. Apparently it's pretty sought after. I think it's freaking sweet. But it leads into the film, which is really cool. We're not talking about the Animatrix. No. We're talking about the actual Neo. I want to tell you about the Matrix. Blue pill, red pill. It's pretty sweet. If you haven't seen that film, you're sleeping. If you don't know about this comic book, you're still napping. All I know is that this thing right here, pretty hard to come by, yet sometimes you can find them in dollar bins. Explain that. I suppose not everybody knows what they have when they have it. So folks, remember, make sure to unplug, to plug in, so that you know exactly what's going on with weird comic books, hard to find comic books, rare things that could be valuable, not so valuable, but just freaking sweet, and that's the bottom line, which is what The Matrix is, the bottom line of really cool pop culture, hard to find comic books, crossing over, blurring the lines, and it's today's Go find it!
Go find it!
Remember, folks, every issue of Cover Lover Comics is independently put together at FLAKtv. This guy's working so hard, he's like doing black and white in a world full of color. He's just drawn and drawn and drawn. He's doing 1,000,000 pages every 15 seconds as far as I'm concerned, because heck, I don't even like computers. He's my saving grace. So please, remember, Patreon helps us out, and Patreon also helps you out. We have many tiers with many benefits, cool prizes, cool things to give away, and we're only growing. And as we grow, this treasure trove will grow as well. Folks, Cover Lover Comics is all about sharing the experience, sharing the love. Same with FLAKtv. F-L-A-K, find love and kindness. I may have misspoken, but there's no misunderstanding what we're all about here. So remember, tune in, check out our issues. We'd love it if you subscribe at FLAKtv, where you find love and kindness. And hopefully I'll see you again soon in the funny books.